Live.
Welcome to Swahili Villa Online TV show in Washington, D.C. We do have Abu Shatil, who is the producer of our show. And today we welcome again Tundu Lissu, attorney, and he's coming live from Istanbul, Turkey. Mr. Amsterdam, welcome to our show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Mr. Amsterdam, we are counting down the numbers of the days as we speak today. Your client, Tundu Lissu, who is vying for the presidential seat in Tanzania, we do have, I think, less than 30 days before the election. Let's talk about free and fair election first. Do you think your client will have a fair and a free election in Tanzania?
No, not at all. It's very clear by the behavior of the NEC, which is just another part of the ruling party, that they're attempting to stop his campaign in its tracks. The structure of the laws in Tanzania are such that there can be no free and fair election. Tundu is fighting with both hands tied behind his back already, and now the NEC, which after the election I'm sure will be sanctioned internationally for their behavior, has basically come out and obviously is biased in favor of the CCM. The leader of the NEC is a CCM cadre, and President Magufuli is a coward. He's unable and unwilling to get the backing of the Tanzanian people. So he uses the NEC and other instruments like the police as if they're a musical instrument to defeat opponents. And he does that because he knows he's not popular. He knows that he's jailed many of his opponents illegally, and he is incapable of running a free and fair election. And this latest incredibly obscene gesture by the NEC to stop Tundu's campaign is just one in a long catalog of abuses that we have put into a white paper that will now be close to 30 pages that we'll release early next week.
So you have talked about a lot about the NAC, which is the, if I spell out, is the National Election Commission. And last time when you came to a show, you expressed that you have written him, the director of the National Election Commission of Tanzania, a letter to try to express that he needs to treat fair and free these coming election. And what we heard, or what surfaced on the social media, we heard about, he was talk about, or he mentioned your name, that that letter was threatening him. Do you think the language that you wrote to you wrote that letter to him was in kind of threatening him, or what he was trying to do is using repression, as we have heard a lot of time from NAC?
No, we're not threatening him. We're guaranteeing him that we will use every effort to have him personally sanctioned for his egregious misconduct in this election. This man is absolutely just nothing more than a political hack, damaging the hopes and dreams of the Tanzanian people, and he will be personally held accountable. I have absolutely no doubt. I call him one of the MAGA fools that believe they have impunity, but they don't. And, I want to be very clear that their lack of integrity and their dishonesty and their fraud is already being demonstrated on an international stage. Tundu has met with many ambassadors already. Our white paper will be distributed globally, and his misconduct in his role, his complete bias, his complete lack of professionalism will be out there for all the world to see. This is not just an issue of Tanzania. This is an issue of the CCM party colonizing their own country. It is an outrage. It is an obscenity the way this party carries on in Tanzania and tries to sanction somebody like Mr. Lissu, a man who came back from the dead after being shot 16 times in very suspicious circumstances, in circumstances which lead many to believe it was organized by the ruling party, it is completely insane that the NEC would want to sanction Mr. Lissu when in fact his followers have been tear gassed, they've been caned, they've been wrongfully arrested, some have been killed and disappeared. Their behavior, the behavior of the CCM, is inexcusable, a violation of basic international law and democratic rights, and I want to guarantee them they will be held accountable.
So you've been talking so many times about the NAC officials and even the CCM and Tanzanian top government officials will be held accountable. Can you walk us through about what exactly of those consequences they will face after October 28th?
Look, again, we believe that under UK and US law, sanctions are available for people who act in a corrupt and undemocratic way. In Belarus right now, Mr. Lukashenko and his gang of thieves have been sanctioned. And as far as I'm concerned, the behavior of the CCM to date is no better than what has happened in Belarus. So I can expect nothing different from them. I mean, Tanzania has already suffered the fate of having resolutions at the EU, resolutions before the US Congress. There was a statement by the EU just a day ago. There's been a resolution in the US Congress just 2 weeks ago. I mean, these people are operating in broad daylight to rob the people of Tanzania of their rights and freedoms. And it's like any holdup that occurs in broad daylight, there are consequences. The CCM are a gang of thieves and hoods and thugs who are attempting to steal this election, and we're going to do everything in our power, and by we, I mean our law firm, will do everything in our power to try to bring these people to justice. And by the way, President Magafuli's a coward. He clearly doesn't feel he has the votes to win the election fairly. So he spent the last 5 years putting together laws and rules that are almost without comparison in the world. I mean, what other country has a law that bans opposition parties from working together? I mean, this man is so scared of his own shadow. I wouldn't call him a bulldozer, I'd call him a pussycat. The man is afraid of the most common vagrant on the street. It is obscene. It is shameful how scared this man is to actually fight in an election.
Mr. Amsterdam, you have talked about resolutions has been passed in European Union. Resolution has been passed here in the United States at the U.S. Congress. Can you explain in a layman language what exactly these resolutions will affect the Tanzanian government and even the Tanzanians, women and children and elderly people? What are these resolutions?
These resolutions call out the government for their misconduct. And what they set up is a process under what's called the Magnitsky Act in the United States, not for general sanctions against the populace, which are really wrong and illegal, but for individual sanctions against Wilson, the head of the NEC, for instance, or against Magafuli or some of the other MAGA fools for their misbehavior and misconduct. So what we've been saying is, unlike the past in Africa, where leaders have trounced on the rights of civilians with impunity, with no concern for consequences, in this election there should be concern for consequences, because we have new laws on the books in the West to deal with it. And I'll tell you, I get a lot of comments about, well, what do you care? Why does it matter? And I'll tell you very simply, I've been in Africa for 50 years. I was in Africa before most of the people listening to this were born. I was in Africa at the very beginnings of independence for many of these countries, where there was a heroic fight against colonialism and white oppression. And to watch these native colonialists, like the MAGA fools, try to steal the future of a country like Tanzania is just too much to witness. It needs to be stopped.
Mr. Amsterdam, you have talked a lot about the honest, fair election integrity. Let me take you back to the security, peace, and safe of the Tanzanians right now. Do you think uh, Tanzanians in general they really understanding the consequences of take their voices in the street after they vote? Do you think it's a good idea for the Tanzanians after they vote to go in the street and raise their voices against to protect their vote?
Look, I believe very strongly in people power. It's one of the reasons I have been such a close supporter of Bobby Wine and the Red Shirt movement in Thailand and many other opposition groups. As long as these actions are peaceful and legal, you know, I also represent Prof. Campto in Cameroon, who's under siege right now for trying to express legal opposition to an illegal government there. As long as people express themselves legally and peacefully, absolutely. It is their duty when their rights are trampled by these thugs to, if their rights aren't represented, to protest. Absolutely, it is their duty. And they should not be intimidated by the empty threats. And it's very clear the CCM is full of empty threats at this point. I think their popularity has been horribly damaged by tear gassing citizens, caning citizens. I mean, I've watched these videos. It's horrific. I mean, the CCM is acting like the worst of the colonial times in respect to their own people. Who gave them that power? Who gave them the power to deprive people of their most basic rights and dignity? No one. They're stealing it, and they need to be called out.
They need to be called out. Who are these? They need to be called out. Police force, NAC, President Magufuli.
Oh, listen, let me be clear about one thing with the police. There are a lot of very serious, honest policemen in Tanzania. And there have been a lot of divisions within the police about following the illegal orders of the CCM. So I think it's very important to be cautious. You know, the NEC is one thing, it's hopelessly corrupt. But the police, I know there are many very honest, able policemen out there who have been trying to show respect to the Lissu campaign. So I want to be very careful and not speak just in generalities. Because I'll tell you one thing that Lissu has told me many, many times. If successful, he is not intending to be vengeful. He's intending to unite the country, move the country forward to a much better, more prosperous future.
Lissu intended to bring the people of Tanzania together. Do you agree with me? On last time when you came to the show, I asked you about a question about the options to sit on the table if the election results goes on the other way. Let's say if CCM win this election, do you taking an options to sit on the table and having a discussion about the peace and bring all the people together of the Tanzania?
Look, if there's a free and fair election, absolutely, except I don't know how that can occur given the behavior of the NEC. I think they've already, in what they've tried to do now to stop the Lissu campaign, they've already made it impossible to have a free and fair election. So we have to wait and see what the Chadema Central Committee decides today, and then we'll know more tomorrow.
Based upon what you have just said, do you think this election has already been predetermined?
Yes, honestly, I do. But, you know, I want to be careful because I think if the vote is so overwhelmingly in favor of Lissu, it may be possible that even the CCM rigging won't work. So I think it's a matter of waiting and seeing. But structurally, it's impossible to have a free and fair election when the head of the allegedly unbiased NEC has already come out as a devout CCM cadre, acting in a biased and unfair manner.
Where do we go from here?
Look, as I said, you know, we take instructions from Tundu. We're waiting to hear what the outcome is of what the decision is of Chadema. And, you know, these are questions better answered by him. I'm just a lawyer acting on his behalf, but he's ultimately the man in control. I think the one thing I can tell you is he wants to see a better future for Tanzania, and the future of Tanzania is what's guiding him, nothing else.
Do you think reconciliation between CCM and Chadema will bring the better futures for the Tanzania? And you, as
Look,
a
I
mediator,
think I think that as far as I'm concerned, um, Chadema has always had an open hand, and the CCM has always had a closed fist. So I'm not going to be the one to even try to go there. That's a matter very much for the leadership of both parties to deal with.
Mr. Amsterdam, thank you again for joining us and talking to us. We really appreciate it for taking your time. This is the Swahiliville Online TV, bringing you live talk show with the Tundu Lissu international attorney straight from Turkey. Mr. Amsterdam, thank you again for joining with us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.